Welcome you to our webinar tonight. This is part of our virtual Customer Appreciation Week. And if you go to our website, naturalcompoundr.com/blog, we have a page set up for our virtual Customer Appreciation Day. Sorry, it used to be a day, it's a week. We have lectures all week and they're being recorded and they will be posted on that page, just like we did when we had the Customer Appreciation Day every year. We do have raffles. They'll be online this year because we don't want to have the crowds coming down to the store. Everything in the store and everything you hear about tonight is at 20% off all week. And on the Terry Naturally line, we usually run that at 20%. You'll get an additional 20% on anything you order or buy this week. You can order by going into the store, by calling the store, by going to our online site, or you can email us at ca for customer appreciation at naturalcompounder.com. And it's now 7 o'clock, so I would like to invite Terry to jump on. All of you can see at on your screen there is a question and answer block. And if you click on that, if you have any questions for Terry, we'll be collecting the questions and answering them at the end of the webinar. And I'd like to introduce Terry. He's a natural health expert with over 45 years of experience. He has owned health food stores, founded dietary supplement companies, formulated over 400 products. He's a published author and radio program host. Terry is in demand as a guest speaker and media commentary on natural health. His continual education, his energy, and his zeal are part of his ongoing mission to improve the health of America. And I've been following Terry probably from when I had a full head of hair, going way back, and he has developed some of the best products on the market. It's products that are researched, they're developed, they're tested, and they work. And so, Terry, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Gary. That was very nice of you and a very kind introduction. I'm excited to be here with you tonight, and greetings to everyone out there, and welcome to our video and our Zoom conference together. And I appreciate you for coming on board with us and joining us. So tonight we're going to be talking about how botanical medicines as alternatives to drugs, because drugs don't work. Drugs, I'm not against drugs at all. In fact, I think drugs are necessary because drugs do help us survive. They do prevent death in many cases. So we can use drugs in an emergency or in a crisis, but alternative medicine has a tremendous benefit in terms of being able to equal and sometimes even outperform drugs and medications, and don't have the side effects that drugs do. Many times the drugs that are prescribed cause other side effects that sometimes other drugs have to be prescribed to counteract the side effects of the first drug. And it's unfortunate that the United States is only 4% of the world's population. Just think of that, 4% of the world's population, but we consume 60% of all the drugs that are manufactured worldwide. And all the pain-killing drugs, we consume 85% of those drugs in the United States. We are a world of hurt. And it's unfortunate that 80% of all the drugs that are manufactured for kids, now this is around the world, not just manufactured in the US, but around the world, global manufacturing of these drugs are consumed primarily in the United States. We are the most unhealthiest country in the world. We are the fattest country in the world. And we always rely on drugs as the answer to our health. But certainly there are many other excellent herbal extracts and botanicals that we can use. It may not always work, but I always think that's the first line of defense. Try the botanical extracts first, give it a month, 2 months, and if you don't see the results that you expect, consult with your physician. But if you're on drugs and you're listening to me today, don't go off your drugs because I give you some suggestions. I suggest that you see your doctor before you make any kind of changing of your medication. I don't know who's talking, who's listening to my program, and I don't know what drugs you might be on, and you may need those drugs. In many cases, I don't think we need those drugs because 98% of all of our diseases is caused by our lifestyle choices. We make choices every day of what we eat and how we live and how much activity we get, how much exercise we get. All those are our choices. And I always tell everybody that you and I, because I'm not pointing fingers at you, I'm in the same boat, but you and I are the only ones that can change our health. So we're going to talk a bit about what causes our diseases. And the bottom line is 98% of all our diseases is caused by inflammation. Where does inflammation come from? And it isn't always bad. We do need inflammation. That's how we heal. When we have an injury, when we have toxins in our body, or we have infections, we have also inflammation going on at the same time. If you twist your knee or sprain your ankle, look at your ankle or your knee and you see inflammation working at the same time. The ankle or the knee will swell. There's water, there's fluid brought into the area. If you feel your knee, it's probably swollen. It feels a little hotter than normal. There's heat being generated by the inflammation. This is all a very good process to heal the body. So this is very acute inflammation. And only lasts for a little while. Maybe a week or two and your knee is back in shape or your ankle is back in shape. But why do we have chronic inflammation? Because our diet is producing inflammation. Sugar, carbohydrates, omega-6 fatty acids from vegetable oils, stress. And one of the common denominators of inflammation is the amount of weight we weigh that is in excess of what we really need. We don't need extra weight. We don't need a pot belly. We don't need a beer belly or bread belly. All that weight that is hanging over our belt or the bulging waistline, all those cells are fat cells, and all those fat cells are producing inflammation. So we are causing inflammation, and that damages joints, organs, glands, and that causes more chronic damage. So inflammation is your body's defense, but you don't want it to go out of control. Inflammation should only be temporary. The inflammation process should end when the injury is repaired. But why are we always inflamed? I like the name of a book that I saw once that said, "The Nation of Inflammation." We are a nation of inflamed people. We have chronic inflammation that occurs when the inflammation process continues for months and years and decades, all of our life. And it's caused primarily by our diet and the amount of weight we gain with the diet that we're eating, which is primarily in the United States, carbohydrates and sugar. So chronic inflammation causes 98% of all of our diseases today. Now we can change that. If we are eating the wrong food, we can fix that. If we are overweight, we can fix that. We can reverse those. So disease is not out of our hands. We control the amount of disease that we have over a period of time. So here's how inflammation affects every part of your body. The brain, for example, pro-inflammatory cytokines trigger reactions leading to depression, anxiety, autism, Alzheimer's disease, and other forms of dementia. And in your skin, inflammation like psoriasis, wrinkles, resulting in acne, eczema. It also affects liver and kidneys. What about the heart? Inflammation in the heart and blood vessels leads to heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. And then we have our bones. Inflammation interferes with normal process of bone breakdown and formation, leading to fractures and osteoporosis. Now keep in mind, all of these conditions are being treated by drugs. But we cause all these conditions by our choices of how we live and the choice of our lifestyle. How do we affect the liver? through inflammation. It increases toxic load to the body, causes fatty liver disease. Now, fatty liver disease was a common occurrence in alcoholics. Alcohol caused cirrhosis of the liver, causes scarring of the liver damage, and then maybe liver cancer. But today we have what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Alcohol doesn't cause the liver damage anymore. We have a new vehicle that causes liver damage, and that is sugar. And the carbohydrates that are converted to sugar in the body, and it's how it is used in our metabolism. Even children today have fatty liver disease by the amount of sugar that they're consuming. And this is a liver disease that we don't know that's going on. We don't feel it until often when it's too late. And then we have the thyroid, which is a huge epidemic today. Hypothyroidism. Inflammation disrupts the thyroid function, and thyroid hormone production results in hyper or hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's disease. Lungs, inflammation causes autoimmune reaction against the lining of the airways, causing asthma, allergies, COPD, and other respiratory diseases. And then the GI tract. How many people do you know that have some of these conditions, and maybe many of these conditions? Chronic inflammation of the GI tract, damage the intestinal tract. Then we have GERD, Crohn's disease, IBS, IBD, and many other diseases affecting the intestinal tract. And just because you can't always see the inflammation like you do on a twisted knee or a sprained ankle, doesn't mean it isn't real. It's there. All these diseases that we've talked about, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, arthritis, both rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, are all forms of inflammation. It's redness, heat, swelling, pain, all are visible signs of external inflammation, and we can recognize that. If we slam our finger in the car door, we have a lot of inflammation going on, a lot of pain. You feel your finger, it's hot, and it's swollen up, but in a week or two, it's gone. But now the most dangerous inflammation that occurs inside our body, where you can't see it, and where there aren't any pain receptors, so you don't feel it, but it's all going on underneath. It's like smoldering embers in a fire that hasn't been put out properly. So what is the connection between inflammation, anxiety, and the immune system? Stress and anxiety. It alters hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis. The inflammation, immune system dysregulation. Then you have more anxiety and depression, increased susceptibility to illness. It's all complicated. Bottom line though, stress increases inflammation. Inflammation hurts the immune system. There's many things we can do to bring our body back to health. And it can be done very easily. You may kick and scream all the way to changing the diet. But if you want to live a better quality of health, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're at the end of your rope because you just can't stand the pain, you can't stand how you feel, you're on 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 prescription drugs, and you're a wreck. You don't sleep well, you don't feel like doing anything. You know how you feel? Well, that can all be changed. Truly, can all be changed. By changing your lifestyle, by changing your diet, by getting rid of the sugar and the carbohydrates, by getting rid of the vegetable oils, and finding a way to de-stress. There are very good herbs that cause a way to de-stress the body. And then you can use meditation and prayer. There's a lot of ways to de-stress, and stress actually is a killer. So by the time you get rid of that stress, you're already improving. Changing the diet, walking for 20 or 30 minutes a day. That is also a form of relaxation, of de-stressing. So the no drugs needed, stop the stress, stop the inflammation, and the immune boosting protocol. Here's what we're going to look at as some of the most powerful natural medicines that nature has given us. And we tend not to use these natural botanicals. We overlook them, or we don't try them for a long enough period of time because we are in such dire straits. We feel so badly. We're at the end of our rope, so to speak. So when we try something for a week. And if it doesn't work, we're done. Because now we're looking for miracles. And there are no miracles. But there are very powerful changes that can go on in a matter of weeks or months. It's amazing that if we haven't done too much damage to the body, that we haven't worn something out completely or destroyed it, we can reverse the body. We can grow new cells. We can have a new body over a period of time. The body is very forgiving. We might take decades in order to destroy the body, but in a matter of weeks and months, we can see changes that you could never believe in your lifetime. So let's talk about a way to relieve anxiety. This is a very special form, very specific form of Echinacea. Now, I know you all know Echinacea. What's Echinacea for? Now, I can all hear you saying that right now. Cold and flu, right? Everybody knows Echinacea is for cold and flu. And the Echinacea that you use for cold and flu is standardized for the for the echinaceids and for the polysaccharides, which actually is very, very healthy when you have a cold and flu. You might use 250 to 500 milligrams. But this is a very special form of Echinacea that is standardized for the alkaloids. And the alkaloids are very, very similar to the cannabinoids. So this very special form of Echinacea affects the brain mechanisms involved in anxiety, controlled by working with the endocannabinoid system. It flips the switches on to trigger calmness without affecting consciousness, thinking, focus, attention. And it works very, very quickly. If you have panic attacks, if you don't want to get on an airplane, but you know you've got to fly, maybe you had a death in the family and you've got to fly to another state and you just don't want to get on the airplane, or maybe you have to go in to see the president of the company, or they've asked you to do a presentation in the office or at school or in the university. Something just causes you to have such a pronounced form of nervousness. Anything that takes you out of your comfort zone is anxiety. You can have occasional anxiety, you can have long-term anxiety, you can have nervousness, you can have stress. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable is a form of stress. And in these clinical trials, Echinacea worked very quickly and safely, reducing anxiety, sometimes in a matter of minutes. Some people say, I just took one little tiny tablet of this special form of Echinacea, and within 15 minutes, I could just breathe again. It just took the edge off, and they feel so much better. But over time, it's even better. Because here's a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. 62 subjects or participants, and the dosage was 40 milligrams twice per day for a week, just 7 days. And significant differences were noticed between the Antigraphis and the placebo. The Antigraphis was the product that was involved in the study, and by the placebo group by day 6 of the treatment period. So here's a great combination that was studied to show the superior results of the product called Antigraphis. Here's an earlier trial, clinical trial. Men and women with increased levels of anxiety received 20 milligrams twice a day. Significant reduction in anxiety by day 3. And this is measured by a state trait anxiety inventory survey. No adverse effects. And even children can use this type of product, children over the age of 4, and there are no adverse effects, no side effects. They're very, very safe, very well tolerated. The efficacy was similar to results that were reported with benzodiazepines, drugs that are commonly used for anxiety. So this is a very excellent product to use for when you have occasional anxiety, or you can use it as long as you feel it's working for you. Also, too, if you're on drugs or medication for anxiety, talk to your doctor before you make changes. We want to make sure that you are well taken care of before you decide to make changes with the medication that you might be already on. What should you know? Well, for relief anxiety, don't expect results from just any form of echinacea. It has to be a echinacea that is standardized for the alkaloids, not for the polysaccharides. Clinical research was done on a very specific extract of Echinacea angustifolia. Extract containing a unique plant chemistry with a very specific alkaloid ratio, and then 40 to 80 milligrams daily. Safe and effective and works very quickly. No side effects. And now step 2, stopping inflammation. If we stopped inflammation successfully and without side effects, we would stop almost every condition that people are being prescribed drugs for today. So if you can't see the inflammation, how do you know you have it? Well, one way researchers study inflammation is by taking blood samples. They're looking for a biomarker and looking for an inflammatory and pro-inflammatory compounds, including C-reactive protein, CRP. Your doctor can look for this marker. It's produced by the liver. Levels go up in response to inflammation. And interleukin-6 plays a huge role in changing necessary acute inflammation into harmful chronic inflammation, as well as interferon gamma, triglycerides, lymphocytes, cytokines, and other compounds. Or if you have any health issue, it is safe to assume you have inflammation as well. Absolutely. Any condition that you have that the doctor might be prescribing something for you is a form of inflammation, whether it might be directly, but it's also indirectly part of inflammation as well. Now here's the most powerful nature's answer to inflammation. It's the best anti-inflammatory. In fact, at Baylor University in Dallas, Texas, at the New City of Hope in Los Angeles, at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas, they have all remarked how powerful this is as an anti-inflammatory. Curcumin comes from turmeric. Now, turmeric is a plant, and you might see it on the screen. It's a root or a rhizome that grows under the ground, and it contains a very, very small percentage in the plant, about 2 to 4%, but this has to be concentrated up to about 95% for it to have a real powerful medicinal effect. So you can't really rely on turmeric or turmeric. You have to rely on the compound that is concentrated and extracted to give you the more powerful benefits, which then become very, very powerful medicinal values. Curcumin is proven to stop inflammation better than any other form. In fact, it's been compared against many drugs, like Celebrex, like diclofenac sodium, Voltaren, and other drugs as well, Humira. Humira is a very, very powerful, but also a very powerful, harmful drug. And curcumin has proven to be as successful as Humira. Curcumin significantly reduces inflammation, and multiple studies have shown its effects on inflammatory markers. Curcumin reduced inflammation in the inflammatory triglycerides in patients with heart disease by 2.7%, while the placebo group increased by 2.3%. And in an animal model of polycystic ovarian syndrome, curcumin reduced the C-reactive protein levels by up to 80%. That is huge. That is well over a drug effect. In human trials, clinical trials, curcumin has inhibited inflammation associated with, and just to list a few, skin diseases like psoriasis. I have talked to people that have gone on curcumin, and they took it for their arthritis, for the inflammation of the joints. And in 2 or 3 months, they said, you know what? I didn't even have a pain left in my joints at all. But surprise, surprise, my psoriasis was gone. They never thought they were treating inflammation throughout their entire body. So if you're treating one condition, you're getting multiple benefits that might affect other conditions in your body. So it also affects rheumatoid arthritis and also osteoarthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease. It's amazing what curcumin can do to stop the inflammation of these conditions. Now here's a bonus. Curcumin boosts mental health. Clinical trials found that curcumin worked as well as Prozac, or major depression without the adverse effects profile. Now this was a 4 to 6 week study. And curcumin, 500 milligrams, was given twice to a group of patients, and the other group of patients got Prozac. After the 6 weeks period, curcumin, VCM95, was as effective as Prozac and did not interfere with the prescription drug, the SSRIs, which are used as one arm of the study. And it worked especially well for atypical depression and major depression, which responds poorly to prescription drugs. We know of other natural products like St. John's wort for depression and saffron, but they work more on mild to moderate depression. This form of curcumin worked as effectively on major depression as did Prozac. They were equally in their effectiveness. But the real bonus of this is there were no side effects with curcumin, and there were many side effects with the group taking Prozac. What to know about curcumin? Well, it's not turmeric. There's a huge difference between the two, and I explained that a little bit before. Curcumin is a very poorly absorbed fat-soluble nutrient. That means when you consume it, it goes down through your stomach into the intestinal tract, but it doesn't get out of the intestinal tract, does not penetrate the mucous membrane of the stomach lining or of the intestinal tract, does not get into the bloodstream very easily, so it can't circulate through the body to the individual cells. So we need to find a way to increase absorption. And a company in India has been working on this for about 10 years, and they found out that by combining curcumin with turmeric essential oil, which contains a very high level of AR turmerones, is a safe and effective way to boost absorption. In fact, it boosts absorption by 700%. So the dosage is much, much smaller, and you get tremendously more value when you are taking the higher concentrated and the proper extraction process. So 750 milligrams of curcumin and turmeric essential oil, which yields about 500 milligrams of the curcuminoids, the active compounds, the key compounds, the principal compounds that are found in curcumin. And now step 3, how to boost the immune system. Now here is a very timely article to help today's environment. How do we maintain a healthy immune system? To me, the immune system is like a vaccine. It is there to deal with any kind of virus, bacteria, or fungal infection. We have an immune system that can take care of all those infections in the body if we have a good, healthy immune system. But that takes good nutrients, good food, and to avoid the bad food that undermines the immune system, and stress, which undermines the immune system, and drugs, which undermines the immune system. So when our immune system is compromised by drugs, by a lack of certain nutrients like zinc and selenium and vitamin D and vitamin C and vitamin A perhaps, we need all these nutrients to shore up the immune system, to make sure the immune system is operating at its peak optimal level. And then we have to avoid those foods. Carbohydrates we have to avoid, and sugar, vegetable oils, and stress. And of course, the aging process is another factor, because as we get older, we slow down in every facet of our body. We don't run as fast when we're 80 as we did when we were 20, so we're slowing down. All of our organs and glands are slowing down. So how can we make our immune system more healthy? Maybe not back to 20-year-olds, but how can we make it more healthy to compensate for the various viral infections or bacterial infections or even fungal infections? Well, we can do that with a herb called Antigraphis, one of my favorite herbs. I love it. I don't go a day without taking several servings of Antigraphis. Here's a little bit of history of Antigraphis. It has been widely used in Ayurvedic medicine since ancient times in India, thousands of years of tradition. Also used in traditional Chinese medicine for over 1,000 years. Now it is known as the king of bitters. What does that mean? Well, you sure don't want to eat it. You don't want to drink it. You don't want to make a tea of it because it's very, very bitter. So you want to make sure that you find capsules that contain Antigraphis. Probably maybe 400 milligrams of Antigraphis, which is standardized for 20 milligram or 20% of its principal compound called antigrapholide. And here are the traditional uses for Antigraphis. In fact, I think it does more for the body than any other herb I know. Now, when I talk about inflammation, well, that goes back to curcumin. But when I talk about all of the other conditions in the body, primarily infection, upper respiratory infection, kidney infection, and all the infections that we have during cold and flu, sinus infection, all of these kinds of infection can be treated successfully with Antigraphis. So it's used for GI issues, dysentery, one of the best herbs for anyone who has diarrhea, malaria, fever, hepatitis, stomach ulcers, colitis, respiratory tract issues, influenza, snake bites, even scorpion bites, ear and skin infections. This is a widely used for all kinds of infections and one of the best for cold and flu. I just saw a study just recently taking 400 milligrams of Antigraphis a couple times a day, was able to clear up a cold or flu within 2 or 3 days compared to 5 to 7 days without Antigraphis. So it protects against the common cold. One of its most well-known uses in the United States, helps prevent the common cold and reduce the intensity of symptoms, especially sore throat and runny nose. In a clinical study, Antigraphis relieved the intensity of key symptoms, fatigue, sore throat, runny nose, sleeplessness in just 2 days. How many times when you get a cold and flu that it seems like it hangs on for weeks? And it can sometimes, especially if you're not eating correctly and you're not getting enough sleep and you're burning the candle at both ends. There's a possibility that you're making that cold or flu hang on even longer. And then you have fatigue and exhaustion. And then the cycle starts all over again because you wore your body out. Now the next time a virus comes by, you've got it again. So this was a sure help in just 2 days. But by day 4, there was a significant decrease in all symptoms, including headache, earache, phlegm production, and the frequency and intensity of coughing attacks. So it's a broad spectrum antiviral activity. Use it for all kinds of, I kind of call it a multi-antimicrobial. It works on all kinds of pathogens, all kinds of germs, all kinds of bacteria and viruses. But it is a very powerful antiviral. That means it stops viruses from spreading and replicating. A recent review article summarized the antiviral effects of Antigraphis. It has been found to inhibit or suppress influenza A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, herpes simplex virus like cold sores and fever blisters, Epstein-Barr virus, and the human papilloma virus, which genital warts and cervical cancer, and the H1B virus, AIDS virus. The COVID-19 virus has a spiky surface that attaches to receptors on healthy cells. Previously, Antigraphis has been found effective against other serious viral illnesses, including Ebola virus. Antigraphis, a key compound in Antigraphis, antigrapholide, is the key compound in Antigraphis, and has been shown in preliminary testing to block the receptors targeted by COVID-19 and can prevent it from attaching to cell membranes. This is a huge, huge benefit, and there are no side effects. So how much should you take? Don't worry about it. Take 400 milligrams 2, 3, 4 times a day. As long as you have got a well coverage of it and you are sure that it's the amount that you want to take that day, it's well in the category of the right dosages. What to know about Antigraphis? Well, it has beneficial effects associated with a key compound called antigrapholide. Can be taken daily as a preventative or to treat symptoms of a viral or bacterial infection. And the dosage that I like, which gives me the best results, is 400 milligrams, standardized to 80 milligrams. That's 20%. 2 times 4 is 80 milligrams of antigrapholides daily. This is very, very good dosage for all kinds of viral infections or other kinds of infections, upper respiratory tract, all these sinus infection, all these other conditions as well. So one more step. Think about what you eat. It's huge. In fact, it's the number one condition you should think about changing. If you're not feeling well, start with your diet. Because what you're eating makes you who you are. Good food, good health. Bad food, bad health. And in America, we've been fed more bad food because food manufacturers want to give us cheap crap, and we really don't get any value from it. So if we want to eat well and change the life, change the health of our life, we need to start thinking about what do we eat. Don't neglect your diet. Reducing carb intake lowers inflammation. Losing weight lowers inflammation. All that fat, all that fat we see on our bodies, that blob of fat, that's not a blob of fat. That's a very active metabolic organ. And all those cells are producing more inflammation. It makes us more unhealthy. It's just not fat. We're just not out of shape. We're unhealthy. And many studies have found an association between carbohydrate intake and inflammation. In a study including overweight and obese individuals, low glycemic index diet reduced C-reactive protein levels by 22%. It's a sad thing today. You know that 42% of white Americans are obese. Not fat, but obese. 44% of Hispanics are obese, and 49% of Black Americans are obese. Almost half of America is grossly overweight, obese. But 91% of all American adults and 56% of all children are over fat. That means they have abdominal fat, which is the most dangerous form of fat because it's the fat that's found in the abdominal wall where it actually affects all of our glands and organs. So when you see that huge body dropped over our belt, we can't even see the belt anymore. Or we have what is called a pot belly or beer belly, the bread belly. All of these forms of abdominal fat, it's a very, very dangerous fat. Patients with diabetes ate either a low-fat diet or a low-carb diet for 6 months. Versus the low-fat, high-carb diet, those on the low-carb diet saw a 37% reduction in interleukin-6 and a 20% reduction in interleukin-1, inflammatory markers. These are reduced, less inflammation, less pain, less hurt, less damage to the body. Firefighters on a carb-restricted diet for 4 weeks saw a 24% reduction in triglycerides and an 8% reduction in the HDL levels, 8% increase in the HDL levels. Getting healthier, dropping the triglycerides, which are the most damaging fats of the body and heart, and the HDL, as we increase the HDL, every time we increase it by 1%, we reduce heart disease by 3%. So we're getting healthier. It doesn't take much. Change the diet. Get rid of the carbohydrates and the sugar. And I always recommend, and I follow myself, the ketogenic diet. If you don't know anything about the ketogenic diet, go to ketogenicdietresources.com, which is a great website to follow, ketogenicdietresource.com, and go to the dietdoctor.com. Both of these will give you a lot of information about the ketogenic diet and you can have a new body. You can have new health. It's not impossible. Get rid of your diseases. Depending on how much damage you've done prior to the time you're going to be doing changes, if you've worn your knee or your cartilage in your knee out completely, you can't redo it. Unfortunately, you're going to have a little bit more trouble. But I know people that have been in severe pain. They have maybe a joint that is completely wore out. It could be a hip or it could be a knee. And they've been advised to have a knee replacement or hip replacement. And they change their diet. They change the way they live. They get rid of the sugar and the carbohydrates. It did not change the hip or the joint. But they have 90% less pain. The inflammation has been reduced so dramatically, they don't feel it. Yes, the damage has already been done. You can't undo that sometimes. But you don't have to live with pain. So here's a little kind of a summary or a recap. If you want to relieve anxiety, nervousness, stress, 40 to 80 milligrams of angustifolia, standardized for the alkymide profile. It stops, if you want to stop inflammation, 750 milligrams of curcumin with turmeric essential oil, 500 milligrams of curcuminoids. And to boost the immune system, my favorite, 400 milligrams of Antigraphis, standardized to 80 milligrams of antigrapholides. And follow the ketogenic diet, or at least a low or no carb diet. And get rid of the sugar. Get rid of the soft drinks. Where there is so much sugar in these drinks and the high fructose corn syrup. You know, we're consuming about 250 pounds of sugar per year per individual. Top that off with 67 more pounds of high fructose corn syrup. We are absolutely causing all of our diseases. We're not just unfortunate. We're just not the most, unluckiest person. Not the roll of the dice. We are making our pain. We are making our diseases by the way we are living. And if we change the way we live, we'll change the health of our body. So if you'd like more information and you want to follow me, you can follow me at terrytalksnutrition.com. I have a website filled with information. I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to that goes out every Friday. It's a weekly newsletter. And I also have a radio show that is broadcast locally, Saturday and Sunday, 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock, Saturday and Sunday. But it's also live streamed to my website, terrytalksnutrition.com. So you can listen live anywhere around the world, or you can go into the archive section of the radio show and also the archive section of the newsletter section. And you can even read all the newsletters that are stored there for you and all the radio shows that you can bring up at your convenience and listen to them, as they say, on demand. So you can follow me on Facebook, Terry Lemerond on Facebook, or Terry Talks Nutrition on Facebook, YouTube, podcast. We are just trying to bring you more information that can help to improve the quality of your life and the health that you deserve, that we've lost, but we can bring back again.
Terry, that was excellent. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
We have one question. I just want to remind everyone, if you do have a question, you can type it into the question box and Terry will be glad to answer it. If any questions come in afterwards, we'll be glad to get the answer and get back to you. One question is, what are the names again of the two ketogenic websites?
The first website is called ketogenicdietresource.com, ketogenicdietresource.com, and the other website is called the dietdoctor.com.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if our listeners understand, with a lot of the regulatory bodies, you're allowed to give out information, but you can't name products.
That's correct.
And that's a shame, because then the consumer doesn't know what they're looking for. But
Right.
We carry everything that Terry was talking about. We have in the store over at Johnson's. It's normally 20% off with Customer Appreciation Week. It's an added 20% off. Feel free to give us a call at 781 893-3870, or stop in the store, and anybody there will be glad to help you figure out what is the right combination of the nutrients and the herbs that Terry was talking about for you. And it just amazes me, as you were saying, inflammation is self-inflicted and it is responsible for most of our problems. But it also amazes me how many ineffective products are out there on the market. There's curcumin and turmeric, probably thousands of different products out there, and the vast majority of them go in one end and come out the other end. And then people say curcumin doesn't work. It does work. You just have to get it in the proper form to get it to where it needs to go to work. So
I
thank you
agree,
for
Gary. Thank you.
pointing that
Yes,
out. And Antigraphis, again, like you said, that's been around forever.
right.
And it doesn't make you drowsy. It doesn't keep you up at night. It doesn't dry out your nose like antihistamines do, but it really does work. We have a couple of comments. Just excellent talk. Thank you so much for the information. So Terry, thank you so much for joining us and for all the great information. I want to let everyone know that Terry and Terry's Natural, we're going to have a raffle of all the attendees, and we'll be notifying one of you because we have a gift from them for you to help support you. And remember, the customer appreciation sale is all week. It's 20% off everything in the Wellness Center. And these lectures will be on our website. Another question just came in. In Western medicine, doctors typically stress the difference between complex and simple carbohydrates. Do you advocate low carbs of any kind?
Well, to begin with, first of all, the refined carbohydrates for sure. Those that are anything white, white flour, white sugar, all the refined carbohydrates we should avoid right off the bat. It depends on the carbohydrate intolerance that a person is affected by. They may want to even eliminate the complex carbohydrates. I'm a I had a very bad life all my life as far as growing through my teens and early 20s. So I'm really very carbohydrate intolerant. So I have my carbohydrates down to about 20 to 40 grams per day, and I feel fantastic. I do more today than I did when I was 20. But some people may need a little bit more carbohydrates. Diabetics, of course. Maybe they may need 75 grams of carbohydrates, or maybe up to 100, but certainly not the 400 grams of carbohydrates that most Americans are eating today. And that's why we have such a problem.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was the last question that came in. So Terry, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for helping us with understanding inflammation, the immune system, and anxiety. And I think all three of those subjects be very helpful with everything going on nowadays.
I agree, Gary. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I appreciate you having us on.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
You too, Gary. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.